Welcoming in new players to your city, your favorite teams, is like welcoming in a new member of your family. You always hope that they're going to be one of the good ones, like a new baby brother, not some like a-hole uncle or something like that. This year, our top nominees for best newcomers into the Denver sports family. From the Denver Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr. From the Colorado Rockies, Daniel Bard. From the Colorado Avalanche, Andre Burakovsky. And from the CU Buffaloes, Coach Karl Dorrell.
All right, so there you have it. Nominees for Best Newcomer of the Year. A few that I think need to be defended here. Starting off, I got to go straight to Harrison, and we got to go with this MPJ Newcomer of the Year 2 years in a row. Defend the take, sir.
I'm not here to talk about last year's Goaties. I'm not here to do that. When we did the Goaties last year, I don't know how that nomination process went, but MPJ had barely played. That was before he had 37 in the bubble, before he had 30 in the bubble on back-to-back games, before he had 28 in the first round against Utah. So I'm not here to speak about last year's award show, but it's so rare, and this is why I think MPJ is a deserving Goatie winner for Newcomer of the Year. It's so rare in the NBA for a really good team like the Nuggets to have a rookie come in and be this good. Like, that just doesn't happen. That happens for lottery teams picking at the top of the draft. It doesn't happen for teams that make a run to the Western Conference Finals, usually to have a rookie contribute, and one that has as high of a ceiling as MPJ. So that's why I think he's deserving. It's rare to have that kind of talent burst onto the scene for a team this good.
I would just like to say that I don't care when the nomination process happened, MPJ could have scored 50 per game and he was losing to Cale Makar last year.
Yeah, that was a rough draw. That was a rough draw last year. So.
Definitely.
All right. Fair enough that he's on there, though. It's strange to me to be nominated for newcomer twice. I don't know. Whatever. That's fine. Rudo, AJ, why don't you talk to me a little bit about my favorite Av, trying to make it 2 years in a row already. My first ever favorite hockey player, so this is going to be a tough one for me. The incredibly sexy and sniping Andre Burakovsky.
Can I just say spinny goals and like walk out of frame?
Yeah.
It seems pretty easy.
You're gonna say spinny goals and then just roll out of frame. You're in the chair.
you have a spinny chair? Spinny roll.
About as graceful as some of those spins from Burakovsky. But, I mean, look, the guy put up a career high in basically every single category in his first year in Colorado. You can't ask for more than that from someone who came in completely new to the team, pretty much embodies, for a non-rookie, embodies this award to a T. And look, he hit the 20-goal plateau. It's just a huge impact for someone to join the Avalanche.
Well, it's not just that. It's you think of, obviously all of these guys got robbed of extra games and extra time to pad the stats a little bit, but he was on pace for nearly a 30-goal season. And we're talking, there's only a handful of guys in Avalanche history who have accomplished that. And most of them are guys who have done it multiple times. The Sakic's, the Rantanens, the Milan Hayduk's, Nathan McKinnon's, like it's the superstars that we think of in Avs history. And Burakovsky just dropped in out of Washington's third line and was like, I'm here now. Guess what? I'm actually really good. And not only that, but continued in the postseason. As you think about a guy like Burakovsky, he's a regular season warrior, right? That guy, it's not gonna work in the playoffs. The tight checking, the physicality. He's your classic like soft Euro that just wants to shoot and score pretty goals, but doesn't want to get touched or breathed on. Now, 17 points in 15 playoff games. Mm-hmm. The guy was everything that you could have asked for from a guy that was brought in to be a complimentary player.
And this was not easy competition on the Avs alone for Burakovsky. The Avs basically triple loaded that barrel with Donskoy, Kadri, and Burakovsky on the second line, and Burakovsky was the one who showed out.
Well, Francouz might have been a fun story there too, but
we talked about him. We actually considered Francouz as well. A great story in its own right, and it's still, in my opinion, it was still Andre Burakovsky by quite a ways.
Well, it's that playoff performance because, in this year, if you want to A, compete with MPJ in this category, and B, even be an actual nomination for a 2020 award, that regular season production, that almost getting to 30 points or 30 goals, doesn't really matter unless he did it in the playoffs, because most of the regular season was played in 2019. So I think that's key for Burakovsky. Drew, let me hit the two football guys.
Yeah. Tell me that Jerry Jeudy in just a projection pick and we were excited about the draft. And look, he looks great, but come on now. Sell me on this.
He drops the ball on this. I think that the real nomination, that's not even my joke. Adam was doing this yesterday, so credit to him. But no, I think the real nomination on the football side needs to be Karl Dorrell.
Yeah.
Just a really insane year for the Buffs and how he came about having this job and actually ended up being one of the better sports stories of this fall just in general in Denver sports, I think. So Karl Dorrell, the Buffs coach, and I think the Buffs could have had a couple sneaky nominees like Jarek Broussard, like quarterback Sam Neuer, though I was talking to Henry about this. They technically don't count because like Sam Neuer is a fifth-year senior. So he's not a newcomer, right, even though he was a first-year starter and kind of broke out onto the scene. But Jerry Jeudy, just the projection. I would almost give this to like Melvin Gordon on the Broncos side. But I think Karl Dorrell, very deserving, should be in that conversation with MPJ, with Burakovsky, because the 2020 he had was really important to Denver sports and the trajectory he's got that Buffs program going in. AJ, I will not let you disrespect college sports as you always do on these panels.
I'm fine with it.
My biggest,
I know it's the problem.
We're gonna take a sly shot at Jerry Jeudy and then suggest Melvin Gordon without any mention of the fact that he also can't hold on to a football.
Well, sure. I'm just saying, production wise, who was better?
Meanwhile, Dre's doing like magic tricks with a tennis ball.
Yeah, Karl Dorrell though. Karl Dorrell, man, like nobody wanted Karl Dorrell to be the head coach at Colorado, not even Colorado. And for him to go in there with like no off-season program or whatever they do over the summer and have the year that he had and just be like an absolute rock, that was so impressive. I'm like just blown away by Karl Dorrell.
Yeah, I mean, to take a program that had major questions at all of the big positions and to get a successful season out of a guy that had been playing safety under the previous coaching staff.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
And turn him into a quality starting quarter. I mean, you got to give credit. Karl Dorrell did an awesome job with no expectations whatsoever. Everybody was still mad. It was just like, no. I hate Mel Tucker, and nobody really cared. Like Karl Dorrell got hired, and everybody collectively went, "Cool," and did a great job.
He was insanely good. Talking about coming out of nowhere,
the award, someone who did that, but with much better, deeper connection to it, and that is Colorado Rockies closer Daniel Bard, the man who absolutely should win this award. Not only did he go 6 years without playing in Major League Baseball, having to overcome all kinds of physical and mental issues to get himself back out there. He went from being the Arizona Diamondbacks mental strength coach the 2 years prior to being one of the best relievers in all of baseball by the park adjusted statistics in 2020. Yes, it was a short sample size. Yes, the Rockies season was bad, but he was the best on-field story to happen to the Colorado Rockies in 2020. He was the best thing that happened that didn't involve a player who retired over a decade ago. And it wasn't just that he was good and a great story. He was phenomenal. Watching him was an absolute joy. The guy was dotting 99-mile-an-hour fastballs, breaking off wicked, unhittable sliders. And the fact that they had to play so many games against the Diamondbacks, so he picked up several saves against a team he was coaching for last year. Like, that's just not a thing that you see in professional sports. So, and also being a reliever as a member of the Colorado Rockies is one of the toughest jobs in all of sports. It's very easy to get your number stock to look terrible. And he was just phenomenal. through and through as a guy who was picked up to just, hey, maybe come to spring training and maybe you'll make the team, possibly. And so, yeah, in my estimation, Daniel Bard really should win this thing. I know people, get more excited about the guy. We talked about, no, he doesn't have the playoffs or the postseason that MPJ and Burakovsky do. And, it's not really his fault that he wasn't there. But as far as the task in front of him, the difficulty of the job in front of him, nobody had a harder time than Daniel Bard, coming from having not thrown a live pitch in Major League Baseball in over 6 years and having to overcome the yips, which ruins hundreds of guys' careers, to not just come back, but to come back and excel. He was comeback player of the year in the National League, like all of this stuff. Like, he really was the best story for the Colorado Rockies again that didn't involve who retired a decade ago.
I mean, in that past, we've seen pitchers who get the yips come back as a different position. Like, I'm done with pitching forever. And I'm sure he was throwing on the side, like doing things in the cages and stuff, but to come back and throw 99-mile-an-hour gas just because you can alone is insane.
I will say part of his success stands out because relative to his peers, he was one of their only competent relievers from start to finish in the season. Sure. And so I think he looks better. Like, just imagine if Oberg had been healthy and they'd gotten decent seasons out of basically any of those other guys. I don't know that he would stand out quite as much as he does. Like, imagine the Burakovsky had the season that the Abs did a couple of years ago, and Burakovsky has that same season. He's second on the team in scoring, and we're thinking we have a potential star in Colorado. But because there are already great players performing at really high levels ahead of him, Burakovsky's going to get the performance that gets muted a little bit. And I think with Bard, it was such a miserable Rockies year. He felt like the only good thing to come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And in many ways he was. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps or hurts his case. That's going to depend on the voters. And I guess
I think it helps him stand out.
Yeah, I think it does too, because he really was an incredibly bright spot in a summer of darkness and sadness and gloom. So
I got to say, I feel good about those four, though. MPJ, Bura, Bar, and Dorrell. Those are four strong finalists right there.
All right. Well, let's see who the winner is.
And the winner is Andre Burakovsky.